Welcome to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I'm a home birth mum of 2 little boys, a doula in Melbourne supporting birth at home. I'm a mental health nurse and the co-creator of Home Birth Victoria. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or my work, check out www.birthingathome.apodcast. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. I would also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been birthing at home on country for tens of thousands of years prior to the British invasion, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. This is the 71st episode, and it's shared by Amy, living on Turrbul and Yugara country. As you'll hear more of in this episode, Amy herself is a twin and was born at home many moons ago. So in a way, she was born to birth at home, which she did, and she shares in this episode with the birth story of her first baby, Elliot. Amy shares with us her pregnancy journey, a bit about her own birth story, and of course, the beautiful birth of Elliot. Enjoy! Welcome, Amy, to Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me very last minute. I feel like honored with how you found out about this recording, that your friend sent you a screenshot and was like, you should do it.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a very last minute recording, so I'm very grateful that you're here. Can you start off by introducing yourself to the listeners, a little bit about who you are, where you're located, who's in your family, that type of thing?
Yeah, cool. So I'm Amy. I have my husband, Nathan, and we have our little boy, Elliot, who was born 9 months ago, born at home. And yeah, we live in Slacks Creek in Queensland.
Yeah, cool. I was looking when you said Slacks Creek, I was like, where is that? But it's kind of like north of Brisbane?
Yeah.
Kinda? Yeah.
Logan. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Sort of location.
Yeah. Just pausing here, because if you are from Brisbane, you will know that Slacks Creek is not north of Brisbane. It is in South Brisbane. So apologies for anyone there. We know that this was an error. Now you can continue with the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, I suppose to start off with, I usually ask everybody this, but how did you find out about home birth? Did you know about it growing up? What was that journey like for you?
I did. I was actually a home birth baby myself.
Oh, what? That's very cool.
Yeah. So I'm actually, I think it's paternal. I always get mixed up. Paternal twin.
Okay.
So a twin birth, this is going back because I'm 28. So going back almost 30 years. The twin birth at home sort of rules and things were a little bit different back then, I guess. But,
yes.
Yeah, my mum and my dad at the time were living in Binnaburra at the top of Beechmont.
Okay.
There's a big mountain. It takes a while to get up to the top. So she kind of figured with 2 of my older siblings, or 3 technically at home, that it would just be a bit easier with appointments and things like that to have us at home.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so she had a private midwife who would come and do the home visits with her, and it was a crazy story actually, of my birth.
Yeah,
and my brother's. So it depends on how much time we have. But
yeah, please tell me.
So my brother was born first, and Mum said that she sort of got those labour pains that just came on pretty quickly with him, and she sort of looked at my dad and said, he's coming and you're going to have to catch him.
Wow, yeah.
The story goes that it was a cricket dive to save him.
To catch? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
His umbilical cord was like a bungee jump cord, they called it.
Wow.
That's how fast he came out. But probably because I was actually forcing him out, I was a surprise breech.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It can happen. It's quite common in second twins. Yeah.
So I pretty much, forced him out. And then it was about 20 minutes between the time that he was born and I was born.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy because it was actually February the 28th. So my brother was born before midnight.
Wow.
I was born after midnight.
Oh my gosh.
So we have different birthdays technically.
What?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I'm March the 1st and he's February 28th. So
oh
every
my
leap year,
gosh.
we're a day apart.
What? Oh my gosh, that is so weird.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what the heck? Like, what did you do for birthdays?
Well, we actually don't celebrate them.
Okay.
I'm religious.
Okay.
So we don't celebrate them, but it's been funny. You know, you get those texts from your mum on the day, like, I remember this day.
What? She's like, which day do I tell them? When do I send the text? My gosh.
They always accepted that we were born on different days, and so it was like we each got our own day. And on the birth certificates, they kind of even refuted it at the hospital. They put both of us down for March 1st, and they said, no, it's like, change it, please. It's actually the 28th and the 1st. Yeah.
What? That literally has given me chills. That is so cool. What I was not expecting you to tell that story. So twins at home, and then like, wow, oh my gosh. What?
And then so there's like a little bit more because it did start to get a little bit hairy. I swallowed a bit of like fluid on my way out, and they had the oxygen tank and everything like that to sort of pump the fluid out, but I wasn't taking over like manually breathing by myself. So they called a care flight helicopter to come to the top of the mountain and airlift me to hospital. That was going to be the fastest way, and they knew all of this because down like the road from us there lived an ambulance officer. He heard that Mum was in labour. They're all close up there, you know.
Yeah.
So he had come to like check out how the birth was going, and when the complications arose with me being breech, he sort of stepped in and he actually. It's so crazy. The weeks before or something had a refresher course on how to dislodge the shoulder of a breech baby.
What?
So he stepped in and he delivered me. And that was just the craziest thing. And then I was airlifted because I hadn't taken over the breathing by myself. But yeah, and they had like a whole newspaper article dedicated to like, they honoured him, the fire department honoured him. And then it's so funny, his wife like literally like a week or so ago reached out to me to sort of just ask how I was and sent me like the newspaper clipping and that like...
What?
It's so cool. So cool. I haven't gotten a chance to like thank him in person, but I told her I would really love to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a story. And that's not even like your own like labor birth story. Holy moly, that is so cool.
Very cool. And like it's funny because I think some people would think that is a reason not to give birth at home is because that crazy like that's
yeah.
But to me, that's just what birth sounded like, was just you did it at home and it all worked out okay. And I'm very fortunate that it did. Obviously, I'm still here.
Almost 30 years later. But that is wild because, like, 30 years ago. And, I mean, that's, like, you know, if you go back, say, 100 years, I don't know what it actually is, but say 100 years, like hospital births were not like everyone, like 99% of women are having hospital births these days, but like 100 years ago, those stats would have been so significantly different. But now, you know, 2025, like home birth is kind of this like thing that only like hippies or like very rich people do. It's, you know, one or the other. It's kind of at the extremes. Holy moly, what a story. Wow. So home birth, like, did you ever think that you would give birth in a hospital, or did you just grow up thinking that if everything's going fine, I'll give birth at home?
No, I just, healthy mum, healthy baby. That's what I believed. You just gave birth at home. My mum had so I've got 4 brothers total, 3 who were separate births, obviously. All born in hospitals. And she sort of had that gateway experience of like each birth she got closer and closer to being, she was all natural births, but the doctor that she had with my slightly older brothers was a bit closer to home birth. He was quite he advocated a lot for undisturbed births. And so I think she kind of did go, well, I probably could do this unassisted sort of at home. But no, it is really cool that was my introduction to it. And just to be able to grow up my whole life sort of thinking that that's how babies are brought into the world. And talking about it with, friends as we grow up. And the friend who recommended me coming on here, she is very familiar with home births. A lot of her siblings are home births. She is one of 11.
Wow, cool.
Really cool. And so we would often discuss what future births would look like at home. And I did probably as well, like I had this sort of moment of, like you talked about, like millionaires are the only ones who There was probably that moment where I just sort of discovered how sort of expensive birthing at home with a private midwife was going to be. And I maybe started to sort of doubt that experience and whether I was going to be able to have it. And I really felt it slipping through my fingers because I hadn't even really talked about cost with my husband. So I was really scared to bring it up once I did find out. And right around that sort of time, the same friend, her name's Elliot, by the way, she had told me about Born at Home, the film. And it hadn't quite been released yet. But very fortunately for us, the release was happening in New Farm, which is pretty close to me. So she said, well, let's go.
Wow.
Her and my mum and we all went to that was the premiere. And I walked out of it just like, I'm giving birth at home. Like it was the empowerment I needed, and it was just so awesome. And so like it gives me goosebumps to think, but my home birthing midwife was actually there at that premiere.
What? Oh my gosh.
I hadn't met her yet, hadn't started quite just looking into it yet because I was pregnant. But pretty early. And I think I even remember seeing her and just sort of thinking like, oh, she's got such a kind face. and then to like the stars aligned when I actually got onto one of her sort of like her second midwife that she often calls on. I got onto her first, literally just by like looking at the Born at Home tagged photos. I think I found Rachel was the other midwife. And I messaged her through her like email contact, and I didn't get a reply, and so I'm like, oh, here's this midwife who isn't replying to me, like, oh, that doesn't look very good. So in her tagged photos was my midwife, Charmaine Dixon from Flourish Midwifery.
Nice.
And I contacted her and she messaged me straight away, and we just like sort of clicked right off the bat, and we met up at one of my favorite cafes, and it's just sort of got to chatting. We got to tell. I got my mum came with me to meet Charmaine, and we got to tell her the crazy birth story of myself, and and she was just blown away by the story.
That's how I feel. Wow.
It's just such a funny happenings of events. But
that sounds, well, I mean, you were literally born into the home birth world. Like, that's amazing.
Fortunately, because not the case for a lot of people, and
for most people, yeah.
For most, and when you tell people like, "Oh, I'm actually going to be giving birth at home," like you're met with like shock and horror, and what if something goes wrong? And you probably you get to this point where you sort of stop telling people
yes
that's what you're going to do, because you're met with like all the questions under the sun, and especially once you actually are pregnant and it's reality, it's not just this mythical thing that you're going to maybe try and do. Like, I'm going to do it, and I have my private midwife. Like, you're not stopping me by telling me that you think that it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And did your husband have like any, like, what was his knowledge of home birth? Did you have to like win him over, or what was that like for him? Do you know?
Yeah, he's such a reasonable person, like if you just sort of explain like why it's important to you, he just kind of was like, okay. Like, and his understanding of birth was that it happens in hospitals and things like that. But, I like came to him with my knowledge of home birth, the fact that I was birthed at home myself, that made sense to him. That I would want to try and emulate, not the same birth, but but being born at home. And then, and what was I going to say?
Did he ever see born at home?
He did not. I asked if he would. He was not very interested in like watching it on the off chance that he had changed his mind, or he didn't want to have to see other people giving birth. He didn't mind the idea of watching me give birth, but and he was more than happy to listen to me just recite the podcasts that I was listening to, and I listened to you so much. And,
oh, really? Oh, that's so cool.
It's so weird, like, to hear your voice now, like, just in conversation with me. I'm like, is this real? Is this actually happening?
Oh, that's so full circle. That's amazing.
So crazy. Yeah, especially when I was pregnant, I was listening to the episodes when I would like drive to work. I had a really long commute, so I would put on your episodes.
Oh, what? Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I feel I always forget like how long I've been doing the podcast and think, actually, like 9 months ago I had heaps of episodes out. So that is very, very cool. And so you were messaging to connect with like the midwives. Do you remember how many weeks you were roughly?
Maybe like 18 or so, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
I think it could have been earlier than that.
Yeah.
Everything's such a blur when you're...
Yeah. Fair enough. And did you do like any... I feel like at this point, like home birth is literally like in your, I don't know, DNA or something. But like, did you do like any particular like courses or like apart from this amazing podcast, of course, did you like access any other resources to prepare you for, that journey or, for home birth?
Yeah, I'd say the Born at Home film to me was like research in itself. You sort of like then got connected to all these different midwives, like the Home Birth Australia, like the website there, and all of those sort of articles that you can then read. Any questions that like, my husband had or I had for myself, I could look there. I didn't do any courses. I did a lot of my own research and watched a lot of like YouTube videos. People's personal experiences with home birth. I really just tried to sort of surround myself with positive experiences and sort of did a lot of that like mental prep for putting yourself in that position of like protecting your birth space and only listening to birth stories that emulated sort of what I wanted. So I did that pretty early on. But no courses, but
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like essentially in your DNA at this point. So If anyone's got it, you do. Yeah, cool. And like, how did you find pregnancy in general?
I had a really easy pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. I know that some of your friends that I had who were pregnant around the same time did not have that experience, and they wished a painful birth upon me.
Oh gosh, oh, that's so mean.
You know, was it HG, the really bad vomiting? My friend had that for both of her pregnancies.
Wow.
And here I was, who had I probably had, a couple of weeks of nausea and could still count on one hand how many times I actually vomited. And it breezed through it, really. It was a lovely experience. I just loved bonding with my baby. I loved it.
Yeah, beautiful. And like in the lead up to going into labor and, that last trimester kind of preparation, did you do anything in particular to like prepare your body or prepare mentally, or even for your husband to prepare to like enter that space?
I think prepping the space was like my sort of, calm. I like to have control. And so that was how I could have control, because the birth could have gone how it was going to go. And so I had a really beautiful space set up with, lovely soft curtains and affirmations and, just fairy lights and everything to make it just this dream space. We sort of even rearranged our couch and everything so that we knew I'd have a mattress on the floor in the lounge so that I could go there and, have another spot to labor if I needed. And, I think it was just a lot of, that mental prep of getting the space ready, and then, really sort of going inward and trying to see if there were any sort of doubts or fears that I had, especially because my own birth had a bit of sort of trauma surrounding it. And I sort of tried to work through anything that was there, and a lot more, of that personal sort of research. As long as I knew I was really prepared, that was what was going to keep me calm, I guess. And, I think that's all. But I think for my husband, I got really sort of funny. I wrote a list of do's and don'ts for labor for him. I would chat to him a lot about different positions he could help me get into, and we would chat about all that sort of stuff as well. In our midwife appointments, he was there for pretty much every single one. So supportive.
Brilliant.
And he would ask any questions he sort of had through my midwife. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. Sweet. And so you're obviously going to have your husband and your, I guess, two midwives. Were you inviting anyone else into that space?
My mum, she came along.
Cool.
I always wanted her there, and she was so funny when I said, of course you're going to be there. And she was like, oh, no, you don't have to have me. I'm like, what do you mean?
Oh.
She's so funny. But she was like, no, you'll have your husband. And, I don't want to invade on that sort of space. And I'm like, he's not going to know what I mean with
you've at least done this before.
You've at least done before. So
wow, that's so special.
My friend did sort of say you should get a birth photographer, but I could never figure out the logistics of that. And I don't know, the idea of having someone else there that you maybe didn't know so well as well, that's played into inviting anyone else into that space. It's a pretty sacred space. So I knew I wanted to keep it small.
Yeah, cool. How many weeks were you roughly when you went into labor with Elliot?
I was 39 to the day.
Wow. Okay. And in those weeks leading up to 39 weeks, did you like get any signs that labor was coming, or what was that like?
I had like I think I had like gone to the bathroom and noticed like a bit of like my mucus plug, or what I thought was my mucus plug, and just sort of, I think I texted my midwife and sort of said, yeah, I think that was my mucus plug, but I can't be sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a lot, and so I wasn't, and I had done that bit of research for myself to know that that doesn't necessarily mean that labor is coming. Like it could reseal and then it could be weeks and weeks away. I was mentally preparing myself to go to 42 plus,
Cool.
I
think that's probably a good approach for everyone. First time, everyone.
Everyone. And so that had happened, and I'd obviously had a lot of like Braxton Hicks, but nothing like crazy, no sort of like big shift did I notice or anything like that. I still mentally was like, we've got at least 2 more weeks of this or whatever it was, and 4, it could be anything from here. And so for it to happen at 39 to the day, I was pretty grateful for, though. You got that sciatic pain that's like really flaring up, and rolling in bed is just, you feel like you have a bowling ball strapped to.
I literally feel like a whale, like you kind of just like stuck. My husband and I like vividly remember my husband and I like laying in bed. I don't know how many weeks I was, but I get very big, so it could have been any point really. But I remember like laying in bed, probably like not fully on my back, but like maybe with my hip like raised under a pillow or something. And just like reaching, we have like a king bed. So he was like on the one side and I was on the other side, and just like touching hands. I'm like, this is all I can do because I can't move. And I remember like saying, I feel like we're like otters, because like otters, when they swim, they like hold on so they don't like get like let go, and I don't know. And we plan to get like otter tattoos because it's just like, like that feeling of, I'm stuck. I do not miss that feeling.
I'm fully prepared to go through it again, because we are not one and done. Like more, but it's just that vivid memory of sort of being on your back and mentally preparing to like shift to the other side.
And having to like be mindful. I think I got out of a car the other day. I don't know which car, but I just had like this random memory. I'm like, oh, like when you're like so pregnant, like having to like really like twist twist like fully 90 degrees, and both feet planted on the ground, and like using your quads. You really have to think about it. Oh gosh. Amazing. And so do you want to walk us through like the labor birth of Elliot then?
I sure do. That was one other thing that I would say that I did a lot prepping for birth was I really envisioned what it would look like, and down to the last detail of like what lights I would have on and off in my house, what music I would have playing, the fact that I wanted it to be at nighttime because I thought people who laboured in the day were weird.
As if you have a choice.
I know.
But visualization is very powerful.
Visualization is so, yes. But my midwife was such an advocate for that, and I told her every detail, like it was going to happen at nighttime, and it was going to look like this, and I'd probably labour a little bit to start, like on a mattress or something like that, and then I'd probably hop in the pool and just stay there until I had to give birth. And it's almost exactly how it happened.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So my husband and I were religious, and we had gone to our church in the evening, and I remember sitting and in church and feeling this big movement from Elliot. And I just sort of thought like, like, could he be moving into the optimal position for birth? Like, just put it out of your brain. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
And it's so weird to have had that conscious thought, but like, who's to say? Like, and who's to say that was his optimal position, and then it was going to be 2 more weeks before he arrival. But it was this really big, like, honestly, if you were looking at my belly, it would have shifted to one side.
Wow.
It was so huge. And I remember it was so funny. I had all these people saying to me like, "Oh, any day now," and all the typical sort of, and I'm just like, I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
Which is unlike me. And so that probably could have even been like that first sort of sign. In hindsight, it was.
Yes.
Something was happening. And a friend of mine sort of said like, wow, this is so crazy to think you could give birth tonight and you could, go home and have a baby, or you could be 3 weeks from now. And I'm like, let's hope for sooner.
Yeah.
And we got home, and we were always on such a high from going to our church. It's so like everyone's so upbeat and happy, and it really just you exude that when you're in your own space. Then
of course.
We were just chatting in bed, just making each other laugh, swapping stories about funny times that we've vomited.
So random.
But I think it was just an oxytocin release that maybe just sort of helped everything go along.
Yeah.
I'd always he would go, all right, well, I'm going to head to sleep now, and I'd go, okay, well, I'm going to go do my nightly stretches and get comfortable.
Yeah.
I'd always sort of head into the nursery, and I'd get down on the ground and I'd do these sort of like hip flex sort of stretches and things, and I would finish it off by sort of like rolling onto my knees and doing a bit of cat-cow stretching and just some breath work. And I remember this night I rolled over onto my hands and knees, and I felt a pop, and I could have sworn it was an audible I felt a warm gush in between my legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I did not just pee myself, surely.
In the nursery.
Yeah. I was like, no, that had to be my waters. And so I got up and I sort of went to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there in disbelief, just like, oh my goodness, is this it? I think I'm sort of like shaking with adrenaline, and like, no, maybe not, and don't get too excited, And I stood up and more gushed out.
Wow.
And I sort of sat back down, and I was thinking in my head, like, do I wake my husband, or do I just, let him keep sleeping, because labour could be hours, days away. And I don't want to disturb him if I don't have to. He should rest.
Yeah.
I should rest. I should try and go back to sleep. And I knew that that's what my midwife's advice would be. And but I sat there, and I think when more sort of gushed out, that's when I was like, oh, maybe I should just let him know. And so our bathroom is right across from our bedroom, and I just sort of tried to really peacefully rouse him, like, honey, babe, he's out cold.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I'm just like, Megan, wake up. And he's like, oh, what? And I'm like, I don't want to alarm you, but I think my waters just broke. And he sits bolt upright. Like, pardon my French, because we don't typically swear.
Yeah.
Shit. It was amazing. Just Kodak moment. And I just was like, I know, but just remember to stay calm. Like, we want this to be really peaceful. Like, and he said, should we be like letting the midwife know? And I'm like, probably, maybe just give her a call. And so, he gives her a call or sends a text. I can't remember. And her advice, of course, is go to sleep and try and rest. You're going to be in for, a lot
Yeah.
And so I go, yeah, that's great. But I just had like a couple more things that I needed to do. Like the birthing pool just needs to be like topped up a little bit on pumping, and maybe, I don't think we have the fitting on the tap yet. Maybe you want to do that, and we'll bring that mattress down. And I mean, hindsight is, I heard in like a recent podcast that like the more that you move, the more you're gonna sort of kickstart the labor.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, but we'll just do this one last thing. We'll move the mattress onto that floor in the lounge room, and just from the spare room we got this mattress, and I'm like, okay, and we'll just put the mattress protector on it, and then we'll go to bed.
Yeah.
And literally as we're pulling that last corner onto the mattress, I just like got the first contraction just starting right in that front in the uterus, and I just like keeled over onto the mattress.
Wow.
And he's like, what's happening? In labor.
This is it.
This is it. Yeah, I think I even just said like, it's happening. This is it. And he was just like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, you just go be here and just
let it happen. Yeah.
Tell her that it's on. And yeah, so he calls her and he sort of lets her know, hey, Amy's sort of saying that it's starting, and she's like, okay, like I'll give a little bit. I might, try and go back to bed, but then she could hear me in the background sort of really starting to get into that like primal moaning. Yeah, because it really just sort of starts out almost like period cramps, and just intensifies from there.
How many hours, or like how long had it been since like that initial pop to when you called the midwife, roughly?
I think it's only been about an hour and a half.
Wow.
By the time we sort of were, like moving everything around. Yeah, and so I guess she sort of was like, first time mum, like it could take a little while. But yeah, it wasn't until she sort of could hear me in the background. And plus, I guess for midwives, the fact that like you're getting the husband to call as well is another sort of tip for them, that maybe you're getting into that labour. But I had hired a TENS machine and was really keen to sort of give that a go. And so I got my husband to sort of strap that on for me. And I liked it. I really liked it. I'd heard mixed reviews, but I felt like it did a lot for the pain, especially like the pulse when you were having like a active sort of contraction. And I think part of that is just, like the distraction that it gives you for that second to kind of like feel like you've got a bit of control maybe as well. Like clicking that button and seeing that light come on and just knowing that a bit of relief was coming.
I agree. Yeah,
I really, really went inward from the jump. I like tried to not speak as much as I could. Even when it just initially sort of started, like my husband would just be like, do you need anything? Like, should I be doing this? And I just was like, shh, just stop.
Remember that do and do not list? Go and refer to it.
I had it printed and everything. And the one saving grace was, he sort of said, do you think that you need like a heat pack? And I was like, yeah, actually, like, yes. And one of my things was ask me yes or no questions. Yes, get that.
Nice.
And that actually really helped, because it felt like it was a lot in the front, the pain that I was experiencing. So that really brought a lot of relief, as well as the TENS machine in unison together. We also obviously called my mum to let her know. And it's so funny, like laying there and hearing people on the phone and like just so calm and relaxed, like, I think I'll just have a quick shower and then I'll head over. And I'm like, it's happening. Like, I don't know why these people are being so relaxed.
Why are they so slow?
And because I was like, I'll be giving birth by then, like by the time they arrive. Like it was these thoughts that run through your head. And Yeah, so I think my mum just beat the midwife here, and it was so funny, the entrance into the space. My husband had started my playlist, my nature sound playlist. I actually chose my playlist was Tony O'Connor's Rainforest Magic, and it
Okay.
is so peaceful, and it has like a special place for me because that's the kind of music my mum, it's the album she used to play for us, just to keep us like nice and calm, or
Chill,
if she was
yeah.
like trying to wake us up really gently in the morning for school or something like that, she would
Yeah,
put on
wow.
this music. And so it just had this really lovely sort of space for me. So he'd had my playlist started and all the lights dimmed and everything was perfect. He was filling the pool already, and she came in, and I had this huge blanket wrapped around me because he was born in August, so it was this like freezing cold weather,
Yeah.
and our house is particularly cold. Just a typical old Queenslander house that's
Yeah.
not at all built to withstand any kind of weather except
Yes.
hot.
Yes.
And so we had like the heater going, and I had this huge blanket, but of course you're getting hot and cold when the contractions are coming and going. And so I just remember I had these thick socks on as well, but I'd already sort of gotten into, like what I wanted to be wearing in the birth pool and everything, just like a sports bra and whatever was comfortable.
Yeah.
And I had this blanket that I'd like sort of tossed off of me because I was so hot. And my mum walks into the space all calm and tucks the blanket back over me and goes to start sort of like, patting me. And I kick the blanket off and I'm like, I'm hot.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, darling, like whatever you need. And I'm like, stop touching me.
You also read that list.
Of course. I'm just like, stop talking. Like,
yeah. Oh,
I was in it. I was
unfiltered Labour land.
Unfiltered Labour land, and my husband was just sort of sitting off to the side, giggling a little bit, like I knew not to do any of those things. You'd already laid all the ground rules.
Yes or no questions.
You broke every
remember?
single one.
Yeah.
And I think she sort of gave him that look of like, okay, so
yeah.
to take that back seat, and this was like my lane.
Yeah.
Let me get in it. And yeah, my midwife arrived, and I think she sort of just did the sweep of the room and was just like, let's get this pool ready.
Yeah.
Checked in with me, and it's so funny because a lot of your birth you aren't maybe like overly conscious of, right? Like it's happening and you're inward and you're going through all your sensations, and so you're maybe not always so aware of what's going on around you. So it's really fun to reflect and hear everyone else's sides of the story.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that because quite a lot of like my memories of it, I remember what I was thinking internally. But yeah, they were able to sort of fill in these blanks of like, do you remember when this happened and this? And I'd be like, no, actually. But yeah, now that you say that, yeah. So that was really cool. But yeah, I remember her offering for me to hop into the pool. And yeah, I had to take off the TENS machine patches. I remember sort of being a little bit like, oh, but like, what if I don't like the pool? Because I'd heard mixed reviews about the pool as well. But I got that instant relief that they talk about. Like I loved being in the water. Yeah, it just was like instant sort of pain relief. What do they call it? Like the home birth epidural or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had my friend, again, my dear friend, had gifted me birthing combs. And so
cool.
I had those. So that I just switched positions in the pool, whatever felt sort of comfortable. But I loved that sensation of just I was in my zone, alone, essentially untouched. Like I could do what felt natural to me
Yeah.
and my baby.
Yeah.
And I just sort of like hung over the edge of the pool or sat with my back against the edge of the pool. And, you know, they'd only sort of come and offer you, you know, like words of encouragement if they felt like you sort of needed it. And I
Yeah.
had affirmations up on my wall, like I said, and my husband would come and sort of whisper those affirmations to me. It was
Oh,
so sweet.
beautiful.
And it really helped. And I think he even spoke to that being a male in this female dominated space where, you know, all of those women had given birth before, and like he felt like he sort of served no real purpose in that room to himself, just quietly. He felt
Yeah.
like that. And it wasn't until he would sort of like, you know, he got that encouragement from, you know, the midwives, my mum, like, go and maybe just like touch her hair, maybe just like give her forehead a little bit of a stroke, or just maybe offer her some water. And he'd come over and he'd do all of those things. And I would just like, you know, melt and just be like, oh, thank you. Or like, you know, just like, yes, that's what I need. Or just having him by me, I felt his presence. And, you know, he'd come over and he'd whisper like, you know, oh, like you're doing so well. Like, you know, each contraction's bringing you close to meeting our baby. And it was just like all the buzzwords. And it was exactly what I needed. And when I would sort of like emphatically like nod, like, oh, she does like need me here. Like my presence is helping, you know. I loved that. And yeah, I remember at one point it was so funny. I could hear everyone was sort of like whispering around, and yeah, she's doing really well. And I just remember thinking like, am I though? Am I doing well? And at one point I could hear, we have a laundry cupboard up in our bathroom, and I heard like the familiar sort of like sound of it being opened, and I was like, who's that? What are they looking for? Like, what do they need? And Nathan was like, shh, just ignore it. Like, they're okay. They know what they're doing. And it turned out to be my beautiful mum looking for towels because she had spilled, she's in the midst of like boiling jugs and pots of water. Hot water ran out while filling the pool. So she's getting all this hot water to fill the birth pool for me. And I still remember like, you know, bits of her like coming up, and she'd say like, I'm just pouring in some hot water. Some water coming, sweetheart. Just be careful. And I do kind of remember instinctively. I just sort of sway and just like move my hands and just sort of mix the water. And she was like, "Oh, it was like watching you. You just danced through this birth. It was so cool to see."
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I actually hadn't said yet, but the whole thing from start to finish was 6 hours. So I was like a superhuman.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, I stayed in the pool for quite a while. I had probably like one little stall in the labour, like the contractions started to slow down, and my midwife suggested that we go up to the toilet. You know, maybe you need to do a wee. And I just sort of was like, yeah, like, okay, I think I do. I'm like in my head thinking, yeah, like something's feeling like it needs to happen first. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, my husband and her sort of helped me out of the pool and dried me off a little bit, and they walked me up. We've got like a split level house. They have a little couple stairs to go up to the bathroom, and they got me to sit like reverse, arms up on like the back of the cistern with my birthing combs, and that is like
it's like the classic, yeah, like literally that's what it's called. Yeah,
changed. Yeah. And my midwife, my beautiful midwife, gave me amazing like counter pressure on my hips.
Cool.
And I let out some Tarzan yells there, just like primal.
Yeah.
She said to me, "You can feel him moving down, can't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Yeah, okay, good. Like, do you want to head back to the pool?" And I'm just, yeah, definitely want to head back to the pool. She said, "You are not putting any pressure on your own legs. Like, Nathan and I are going to carry you back to the pool, essentially." And they did, and I could have sworn my baby's head was like out.
What?
He was there. He was ready.
Wow.
And like getting back into the pool, like it's so tall, these birth pools, and so I remember like grazing a little bit across it and being like, "Oh my, I'm going to push him back up there."
Bounce on the edge. No. Yeah.
And then it was like really, really on then. I remember sort of like leaning over the pool again, hanging over it, and just having those like thoughts of like probably transition then at that point of like the ring of fire. I heard about that. Like I started to feel like that real burning sort of sensation, and I think my midwife even sort of sensed it, like those sorts of like some like sharp intakes of like pain, and she'd be like, "Just like, you've got this," and like, no, don't freak out, like lean into that. And I just remember thinking in my head like, oh, you've never given birth before and you aren't gonna know what this feels like. And that's okay, like I sort of really coached myself through it. And I just was like, it's gonna hurt, but you can do it. Like, you've got this. And it was 100%. So cool, like being your own sort of cheerleader in that moment. I remember having also the conscious thought of like, you could feel my baby's feet like kicking and sort of doing whatever he needed to do, like the maneuvers and stuff to do to work their way down there. And I remember consciously thinking like, this is the last time I'm ever going to feel him like kick in my belly.
Oh my gosh, that's such a weird thing to think about.
Crazy, yeah. And yeah, I think essentially I sort of gave birth on like hands and knees in the pool.
Yeah.
And the second midwife, I think, did reach in at one point to sort of give me a bit of like counter pressure against like my perineum. I think they were telling me to slow down, but I just was like, I'm getting this over with.
Yeah.
This baby's coming out. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I was getting so tired at that point, because I hadn't had any sleep since like the previous night. And it's coming up on like 4 a.m.
Wow.
It felt like two sort of fluid pushes of like head came out, then the shoulders, and everything else just sort of like slipped out. And it was just the biggest relief to have it all just sort of like amount to that moment. And my midwife was like, lean back and pick up your baby. And I just like remember opening my eyes and looking into the pool, and they're lighting it up with like torches and flashlights and things. And I just like came back to earth. It was such a weird feeling. Like I felt like I hadn't opened my eyes the entire time. And so to just like come back, and the first image I saw was just my baby like floating in the water.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Crazy.
Magical.
Magic, yeah. And I got to pick him up and like put him onto my chest. That was such a surreal feeling. Like it did not feel real.
Yeah.
My cord ended up being quite short.
Okay.
So my midwife just had to kind of tell me to just adjust and just hold him a little bit lower, and sort of just with like the amount of like color change in the water and everything, I guess she just sort of asked like, do you want to just hop out and we'll get you guys all snug and get you nice and dry and everything. And I think that they're really good at like, even if there were things that maybe they were like curious about, like if I'd torn and all of those sorts of things, or like the amount of blood that was in there, I don't think was like an enormous amount. Like, it wasn't anything beyond usual, but like they still like to get you out, but they don't ever want to panic you, which is so lovely. Like, yeah.
Well, at that like stage, like panic is like counterproductive to what still needs to happen. Like, you still need some sort of oxytocin to get that placenta out. And if you're saying, oh my gosh, there's blood, then that's gonna, spike your adrenaline even more and cancel that out. So it's
exactly.
And that's so horrible if you're like in that magic space and then somebody's like making you panic. It's kind of like, well, somebody's like just popped your bubble, really. So that's beautiful. And so did you birth your placenta then out of the pool?
Yeah, out of the pool. I feel like I got a bit stubborn and I just was like, I'm done. And both midwives separately sort of came up and were like, like after the delayed cord clamping and all the rest of it, like, do you think, like, are you getting any kind of urges? Like, is it, and I was just like nothing. And I really didn't get any more contractions or anything. And they sort of, they said both separately, there's no bones in this one. Just got just like one push and you'll probably get it out, and it won't be as bad as And I just silently was like, no, I'm not doing it. And they sort of offered, do you want to finally try and do that wee, and let's see if that's what's stopping us. And so obviously to have that happen, they separated me and baby. And they had the little like a crocheted sort of handmade cord.
Oh, beautiful!
Midwife brings along with her, and my husband got to choose from like a few which one.
So sweet, yeah.
And so he got to do the tying, and he got to do the cutting, and that was really, really cool. Just up in our bedroom, like we've just sort of been to that space, and I think it's literally the only evidence that like home birth sort of happened here is like a tiny blood stain from the cord like on the carpet in our room. Like, other than that, like, you would not have known. Happened here. And so once we were sort of detached, and Nathan got to have some bonding time with Elliot, I went to the bathroom, and it brings tears to my eyes. My midwife and I had this really beautiful moment, sitting on the toilet, and of all places, and she just was sort of like, like rubbing my knees and sort of, and she did offer the Pitocin shot to get the
synthetic oxytocin.
Synthetic. So she sort of offered that to me, and I did take that just because I was sort of eager to get things moving along. But just this beautiful moment of her just sort of like, oh my God, like, you just had your baby. And I just like looked at her, and she looked at me, and we just burst into tears and just hugged each other. And like, it was this journey that we'd been on together that was now at an end. And like, yes, you still see her for your like the postpartum checkups and things, but it was just like
that's the peak
initiation into like motherhood, and it was really, really sweet. But I had the old like, just cough and we'll pull the placenta out for you. So that was that was my placenta delivery. I'm sure it's a very common story. It's so funny. Like, it's so me. I just like silently, stubbornly was like, no. Like, to no one else did I utter the words no, but I just was like,
I listened to the Great Birth Rebellion today, the newest episode. I think it's like episode 150 or something, but it's like about considering home birth or something. In their interview, a home birth mum, and they were talking about how like cruel or how rude it is that, you know, you literally give birth to a whole human and then you also have to give birth to the placenta, and it might not have bones, but it's still like a decent sized thing that has to fit through, and sure, it can fold and it can squish, but it still sucks.
Yeah. I feel like, maybe because I hadn't even considered that in my like mental preparation.
Yeah, there you go.
My body and brain.
The vision just stopped.
Like, the vision stopped, and so therefore,
all over.
That's such a funny way to put that. Tell my midwife that.
Yeah.
The vision stopped.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so that was like at roughly like 4 a.m. ish.
Yeah, I think he was born exactly 4:15 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I was thinking about a post I saw today in the Homebirth Victoria group, and a mum, I guess different circumstances, because obviously like a lot of pressure. And I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people can relate, you know, when you reach that up to 42 weeks and like every publicly funded home birth program, you know, the cutoff is like 41 plus 6, and often it's like at midnight on the 6th day or whatever. And, you know, she was talking about like, you know, how can I get myself into labor and whatnot. And I just think it's so funny because, you can feel nothing and nothing and nothing. And then it just takes one cat-cow, you know, and that's it. That's the spark. That's it. It doesn't, you know, once it, like when it happens, it's going to happen. It's just, you don't know when exactly that specific moment it's going to be. And then, like 6 hours later, you got a baby. That's like, you know, that's nothing. 6 hours is nothing in comparison to a day. Like, things can happen so quick.
Yes. Yeah. 6 hours. Like I've had like shifts at work that have lasted way longer than that, you know, like so crazy to think. 6 hours, like what would you normally do in that amount of time? Like,
well, like, now I think about it, like my eldest Murphy, he just started I don't know what they call it in other states, but he started prep, like he started primary school this year. Like, the day of school is 6.5 hours. So that would be like, you know, dropping your child off at school, going into labor, and then by the time they finish school, you got a baby. Like, that's wild.
Ideal, honestly. Like, people give like a way smaller number, you know, like, oh, I birthed crazy fast and I had like a 3-hour labor. That's too fast.
Well, I have had quite a few people on here that have had like extraordinarily quick labors, and it's actually not all that it's, you know, I think people think that it's going to be, because it's like, a shock, like it's very fast.
Definitely. And your skin doesn't have maybe as much time to sort of stretch and prep. Like I had a sort of like very mild 2nd degree tear, and so I can't imagine it going like any faster than that. Like,
wow. And then what did you do? Did you like get tucked up into bed, or like what were those initial hours, or was that first day like?
I initially, like straight after when we were sort of moved from the pool we had our mattress on the floor in the lounge room, my beautiful mum offered us cups of tea, and she'd made some like tea cake. Are you hungry? And I'm like, I'm starving. So just eating cake. We have these funny like sort of pictures of me just like asleep, like shoving cake in. And I just had a bulb on my chest, and then moved up to the bedroom. I think when I went up to the bathroom and I had that time alone for a second as well after my midwife and I had that beautiful moment, and I just got left alone for a sec to try and finally do that wee. Did the longest wee I think I've ever done in my life. And just had that sort of like, oh my God moment of like, I birthed a baby. So strange, but just the serenity of just being in your own space, being able to just jump into my own bed. Like I got to change into different pajamas, whatever, and was comfortable and just be alone. And it was so strange because you could see that the sun was coming up through the peak in like our blinds in our room, and I just was like, what time even is it? Like, how long was that? And then you start to get all of the answers to these questions that you're like, wait, like, what day is it? Like, was that 24 hours I was in labor? Was it 2? Like, but just like laying in bed so peacefully with my husband, and I like my mum and the midwives just were down here just packing everything up, and I came downstairs for the first time, and after a couple of hours of just laying in bed, and it was, you wouldn't have known that a birth happened. Packed away, and like the pool got drained and everything, and I think there was like one remnant of like placenta or blood clot or something on the lawn that my husband found the next day. It's just like, there's proof that
that it happened. Oh, so good.
But I couldn't speak to an experience of being in a hospital beyond like visiting friends there. One of my friends who gave birth about 2 months after I gave birth to Elliot, she had her second baba, and we came to introduce them both, and just being in that environment felt so wrong. And even my husband felt the same. Like, he was just like, wow, it's so loud in here, and this lighting is so stark, and like you're separated by curtains that are paper thin. The woman in the next room to you is like, crying or like, talking to her husband, and then like there's all of this stuff happening, beeping machines, and I just immediately was just like even more grateful for the experience that I got to have at home, and so was he, which was it was really nice. It reaffirmed it all for us going into the hospital setting, just 100%.
Whenever I hear a story about hospital birth, I just can't can't believe like how different, especially that shared room situation, or like even as simple as like having the curtains closed and seeing that peak of like sunlight, like when you're in a shared room like that, which is most places I think, like you don't have control over the curtains or the air conditioner or the heater or
it was freezing in the hospital
settings of the not the settings, the sheets on your bed, you don't have control about who comes in and who comes out. Like at some point, nurses or midwives, they do have to come. Like they have to.
They have to. And like even when we were there, like they came in just to sort of do a little checkup and talk to, or just delivering meals and things like that.
Yeah, picking the trays up, or the everything, like
It's still a disruption, and I just. Oh gosh, I was so grateful.
Gosh, I would. I think I am done having babies. Although I don't like being pregnant, but the birth part I could definitely do again, and especially that initial like oxytocin high, like it's so addictive, and just
crazy addictive.
I would, like I'm going through all the photos on my phone at the moment, because I have like I don't know, 20,000 photos on my phone. So many.
Too many.
And too many. And I have this idea that I'm going to create, like, for Murphy every year, like a photo album or something, you know, a physical photo album.
Yes, like a coffee table book.
Yeah. And so I'm going back through, you know, like month 1, month 2, month 3. I think I'm up to like 6 months now. And I mean, this is like 5 years ago. Yeah, just being like, holy moly, and like even seeing myself and how young I look, and like, oh my gosh, like what a time. Like that was like, like obviously, you know, with Frankie, it's like going from 1 to 2, that's life changing. But like your first baby, that's like, I don't even know. Like that's such a wild experience. You're learning everything from like for the very first time. And, you know, like looking back at these photos, I'm just like, holy moly. Yeah, it's so beautiful and just, oh, yeah. So special.
And so special.
I still remember eating peanut butter toast. Like that was my first meal after Murphy. Yeah.
So cool. It's completely different to being a motherhood related, but I think that I do slightly regret not having someone professional to sort of take some photos, or even just for myself to have like some like raw video footage.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
My husband picked up his phone like maybe once or twice to take a couple of videos for me, and I'm so grateful I have those.
Yeah.
Just, oh my God, like hearing the audio of yourself like going through a contraction, that breathing, that like, oh, I was like,
yeah,
I'm giving birth again. You know,
yeah,
like,
that visualization,
I feel that contraction. And, you know, sort of like panning down to the mirror, reflecting like his head crowning.
Wow.
Like, I'm so lucky to have that. And my mum, who cannot take a stable photo to save herself like any other day, took the most stunning picture of me holding my baby Elliot for the first time.
Wow.
It's my favorite picture ever, and I have it in like black and white, and that's what I show people because it sort of blocks out any of the
the bloody water. Yeah, of course.
But like, oh gosh, just so beautiful, and it's so lovely to have the memories, but I know that they'll fade, which is why this is kind of such a beautiful thing to have, this podcast, you know. I get so nervous that I'm like not adding details that I'm going to want to remember. But
yeah.
Because, I didn't even say, you know, like my husband, when Elliot first sort of came out and I brought him to my chest, like everyone cried. Like there was not a dry eye in that room. And, you know, my husband sort of, who barely cries. He really sort of like he wept a little bit, you know, like, and it was just so beautiful. Like, and that's what he was saying, like, he's so beautiful, and it was so sweet.
Yeah. I think when you described that moment, I already had like everybody crying in my mind. So that makes sense. Yeah. It sounded really beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And so future babies, home birth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. There definitely is that element of like cost that always sort of like niggles in the back of your mind, because I guess it was a lot more than maybe I was initially sort of expecting pre-pregnancy. I hadn't really done too much research into that sort of thing myself, but it was worth it. 10 times over, I would pay that, you know. Like, my husband feels the exact same, it was just incomparable to the experiences that we had both heard from close friends, family, their experiences. That's what I came out of the Born at Home film feeling like, was essentially this is an investment into myself, my husband, and my baby's experience of coming into this world and becoming parents and becoming mum. Like, and how, like, I couldn't justify any kind of like dollar sign value to like taking that away. Like, and I, for sure, like there are people who just could not make it work even if they really wanted to. And my heart goes out to them. But yeah, there are so many different advances happening with home birth and everything that is so awesome. I think there's some developments in Queensland with having a lot more like home birth programs opening up. The closest hospital to me is Logan Hospital, and they like had a full addition of like birthing suites and all different things. And now I think they do offer like a like the midwife based care.
Midwifery group practice. Yeah.
I believe they've started offering that. But nothing compares to like Charmaine, my midwife. I would birth with her again and again and again.
Yeah.
I love her so much. Like that bond that you form with your midwife is just, comparable to none. She's a mum of 9. She had 9 babies.
What? Oh my gosh. Like a real professional, if you could. Yes. Oh my gosh.
And so, just knowing that you had someone on your team who had been through it 9 times themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that gives you a lot of confidence, I think. Yeah.
I do remember talking to her like after the birth, one of like maybe the first sort of like postpartum visits, and I said to her that transition like thought that popped into my brain. I didn't say, but I remember thinking, I'm gonna like keep pushing, and I'm like just gonna tear, and I'm just gonna keep splitting, and I'm gonna like split in 2. Like I'm just gonna like rip up the middle and just keep going. and she was like, yeah. She was like, I once had the thought that I was just gonna like fold and flip like a banana peel, and I was just like, you're telling me this now? She was like, yeah, you had to do the work first. Like I was scare you,
Yeah. Well, yeah, both times I think I can't quite remember the difference, but the same kind of thing. Both times I remember being like, next time, C-section. Next time, 100%. I can't believe I'm doing this without an epidural. That's so stupid. But, like, you could never pay me enough money to, elect or, like, voluntarily have a Caesar or voluntarily have an epidural. I think that I liked what you said earlier about that you knew it was going to hurt. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people out there that say that they have like pain-free births, and that's amazing. Personally, my births were not pain-free, but like I accept that you're pushing an actual human out of your vagina. Like that's gonna hurt.
Exactly.
But like I would, I mean, I think the payoff is like worth it, you know, like the physiological undisturbed birth is like, I mean, if you could bottle it up and sell that, you'd be a very rich person, I think.
100%. I could not agree more. The amount of friends who go, I could never do what you did. And I'm like, you could. Yeah. I advocate for the fact that like every woman, healthy mom, healthy baby, could give birth at home and should give it a go if they can. Allow, because it's just the most amazing feeling. That high that you talked about, like I felt like I could conquer the world. Like I just saying like I'm a rock star.
Yeah.
My midwife was like, you are.
Yeah, pamper me now. Bring me that tea and cake because I just gave birth to a human.
Yeah.
That's badass. Yeah.
For that, like, the oxytocin high was, if you could bottle that and sell it,
I'd buy it. Yeah, well, it's been amazing to chat with you, Amy. Like the story, especially your own birth story. I was not expecting that. That's like a wild bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so beautiful, and it's always so special to like hear and share like a first time mum choosing home birth, because yeah, like most people, like I've said before, most people are choosing home birth or finding home birth after they've already had some sort of other experience, whether it's positive or negative or traumatic,
100%, yeah.
whatever. And yeah, like I think that's amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you. I think it's as well, like it was not hard necessarily because my mind was so made up, but when you're met with any kind of like negative sort of response to like, oh, I'm actually going to be having a home birth, like, oh, like, is that safe? Like, oh, if my baby wasn't born in a hospital, they would have died. Like, there's the conditioning that a lot of people have that a hospital is the only place or the safest place to give birth to a baby.
Yeah.
To feel like you're sort of not eating from that same pie is just so like, yeah, it felt like I was this like sort of hippie with really alternative views, but to find podcasts and like communities of people who are really normalizing home birth was really, really cool. Especially like I said, the Born at Home film coming out like right at that time was so like, yeah, it felt all like it just sort of like was meant to be. Almost like personally sort of came out for me and helped me.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
Like,
meant to be.
Yeah, strong in that decision. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of that fear mongering that babies need to be born in a hospital just in case, or that sort of opinion of like, oh, don't you want to have your first baby at a hospital just to see how you birth? Like, no, you don't need to have a trial run birth. Like,
why don't you birth at home first and then see if you need the hospital?
Because like my sister-in-law is just in awe of me, and like her delivery of her only baby was so traumatic for her, and she just is like, I wish I had like spoken to you first, and maybe my birth would have been different, and it breaks my heart like that there are so many women who have that negative experience, and that cascade of intervention is real for some. There are some lucky few who go by unscathed in the hospital setting. But for those who who didn't have such a fortunate experience, like, and she wishes that she had the same sort of experience I had. And that thought that you have to give birth once to know how you birth, but do it under safe conditions in a hospital. Because of course, like, you're going to opt for, epidurals and things like that because it's like, offered to you in the
well, I hear stories where that people like pester you as well, and like that's happening in 2025 where they're like, do you want one, do you want one, do you want one? It's like at some point you're going to say yes.
This is true.
This is your last chance, because otherwise there's not going to be somebody for X amount of hours, or they're going to another birth or something. That's horrible. Well, again, thank you so much for last minute sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really, really fun. I do hope that I got everything out that I want to. I'm sure I'll probably think like, I should have said this, but that's mum brain for you.
Indeed.